number one song in South Africa right now, Chuck, Shela. That song, Young Shela, because the ladies like Shela, Let's Inkomo, Zalele, Manje. And I feel like that's the anthem for the over 30 gang. Like,
yeah, it's that time of the year. Actually, it's Katsuk Pale, it's Katsim Shat as well. As you would know, Shela, it's also Kasim as well. And you try. Now you're in that. You don't give up.
It's
You
that
keep
December
going.
fever, man. It's that December fever. But we're not here to talk about all of that. We're here to talk about football, right? A lot has happened over the weekend, and we're going to get into that. My name is James Zulu. This is Two Upfront Podcast.
And this is Chuck, number one supporter of Two Upfront, of just Two Upfront.
You'll find out soon, number one supporter of what. And we're going to talk about Pirates to begin with, Chuck. And the London Pirates won the Carling. It's only their second Carling knockout trophy in the PSL era, like the first one since 2011, I believe. And the numbers are interesting, right? Because having won the MTN8 this season, now the Carling. If we go back to the start of the 2022-2023 season, which is when Orlando Pirates became Cup Kings. Orlando Pirates have 7 trophies since the start of the 2022-2023 season, compared to 4 by Mamelodi Sundowns. And the question is, have Orlando Pirates overtaken Mamelodi Sundowns at the top of South African football?
Have they? Nah, I don't think so. Look, I think it feels good to be a Pirates fan in terms of getting all those accolades, all those trophies, etc., etc. But it always felt like something was missing. Like when you look at that great run by Pirates with Riveras, it felt like finally when I get to the top of the mountain, which I think Sundowns have scaled that mountain. Sundowns have become successful, whereas you look at them and you're like, not them again, right? So for me, I think it's great to claim the cups. It's great to have. I mean,
is it really? Because you are one of those Pirates fans who said to me that it doesn't matter if you win the Carling. And this was even before the tournament started, because you've been collecting cup competitions. Doesn't matter if you win the whole lot, MTN, Carling, Nedbank. If there's no league, then it doesn't really matter. So is it really great, Chuck, to win all these cup tournaments? As
number one support, I don't say it didn't matter. I don't think it's as big. I don't think it's as it's not a big thing to write home about in terms of winning Carling Cup. My guess it did that. Staley's did that, and I don't know. It's soon forgotten. I don't think it's that big. I think it's great in terms of early in the season you got something to celebrate. Nedbank Cup late in the season to celebrate. But the one that shows how big you are, how good you are, is the league, and we've been chasing that for the longest time. So I think Sundowns are still the team to beat. Like even. Here's the thing, Jay. Here's what I feel, right, as a Pirates fan. Even with those cups, I look at Sundowns and I'm like, that's the team to beat. That's why for me it's so much sweeter when I get a cup and I go through them, because they're still the team to beat. And I think because they're defending league champions, they're still the team to beat. So we've been successful. It's been a feel-good time. I think happy people is back. But in terms of the team to beat or the team that is the top dog right now, still Kawiyelo.
Well, London Pirates are concerned, and the numbers are staggering. They've truly began to add up in terms of winning those cup competitions. They are undisputedly the Cup Kings of South African football. And when I speak about the numbers, to begin with, Pirates were contesting their 31st knockout competition final, in the PSL era, and they're the first team to go past 30 in the PSL, right? And when you go back to the start of this decade, 2020, they've now won 8 out of 10 finals, which is a ridiculous ratio. And that compares, Chuck, to the first 24 years of the PSL. They'd only won 7 out of 21 finals. So they've eclipsed what they've done in 24 years in the space of just 5 years.
Yeah.
And when I look at that, right, they are absolutely threatening to be the team of the decade thus far. And they there or thereabout. And if I come back to the question and you look at those numbers, 7-4 is staggering. That's almost double. It's almost double in terms of the accolades that you have, right? And if they go on to win the league, which of course would be denying Sundowns the league, then that's 8-4. And now you have the league. But I think you do have to have the league. I'm with you on that one, where I considered that, because it feels like the last 3 seasons or so that every time I look up, Orlando Pirates are playing in a cup final, and as it is said on social media, Orlando Pirates don't play cup finals; they win them, and it truly is like that. Because even as I was watching the game against Marumo Gallants, and I know in the back of my mind that Marumo now in extra time are thinking, if we can just get to penalties, because we've got Washington Aruba you know, and he's proven to be quite the master in between the sticks when it comes to the penalty shootouts. That some way, somehow, Orlando Pirates are going to do it. And this is from experience, having been Mbombela, when it looked for all money that we are about to go into extra time, and Rele stepped up and he scored the goal against Mamelodi Sundowns in that final, as he did once again, stepped up, and the action that led to Pirates winning that final. I felt that they're going to do it some way, somehow, they're going to get the goal. And Orlando Pirates did that. And in terms of the knockout competitions, they just know how to win these. Like, I've heard the explanation in terms of preparing a team for cups is different than the league. And I still don't quite fully get why it's so different, because it's still the same team and you're still playing against the same teams, you know. But whatever it is that Orlando Pirates have figured out, they've got the formula to win the cup competitions. Not quite yet the league, but they sit pretty at the top with... There's a buffer in terms of points. There's also a game in hand, and they're going to be there until the turn of the new year. And I've already picked them to be crowned South African champions. If and when that does happen, I think I'd be willing to concede. Especially also, we're going to the AFCON now. Check the numbers of Orlando Pirates players in this AFCON squad versus in 2024, where Sundowns had, 11 players or something like that. Pirates have double digits and Sundowns only have 5 players in their squad. And that's a reflection of where the two teams are currently. Yeah. But they need the league.
I think I completely agree with you, Jay, in terms of if they do win the league, then they've gotten that carrot that has been dangling in front of them for the longest time. And if they do get the league, I think then they eclipse Sundowns, because you can't overlook the fact that they've won so many cups. You can't overlook the fact that they've won, whether MTN8 they've got it, Carling Cup they've got it, Nedbank Cup they've got it. But like I said, the big one has eluded them for so long, right? And if they get that one, then you're like, okay, you guys have done it, and you've done it over that particular side. Granted, they're not looking as they usually do. Granted, they have Cardoso at the helm, who's not... If you hear some fans tell you which is not the best coach to lead the particular side, right, to defend their league and to go into Africa, but I think if they do that, then it's hallowed ground, right? But Nakona Season 1, if it happens, because the formula is yet to be cracked by Orlando Pirates. We've done the cup thing. We figured out how to win cups. It's the consistency that has eluded us. And I think maybe the boys have tasted some sort of consistency. I think last season was a bridge too far in terms of the number of fixtures and the personnel that they had at their disposal. When you look at who they have now, they can interchange between strikers, defenders, midfielders, etc., and they've got players who are ready to go. So maybe this year they do it, and if they do, it'll be so sweet.
Yeah, Chuck, I don't think it's a ridiculous thing to add to Pirates going in the right direction in terms of usurping Sundowns as the number 1 team in South African football, to say that they have the best squad in the league. How many times have we been able to say that in the last decade, right? Not many, if at any time. You look at that Orlando Pirates bench, like going into a final, and yeah, it feels like Galacticos over there.
Yeah, and that's when you look at that particular final, 2 different mindsets. When the game was going deep into injury time, extra time, Owadu was putting on more attackers, whilst Gallants was trying to fortify in terms of preserving that scoreline in terms of going to penalties. So I think if you look at the attacking power, the number of players that they can just plug and play, and they've got something to give. Like someone like Makaula came back, and you're like, oh, here's a performance from him. Riley came back and looked more like his regular self. So I think they've got the players. It's just a matter of doing it consistently. I worry about goals, though. But Owadu said he worries about someone other than Sundowns. Abdul Salam Owadu. There is someone to look out for besides Sundowns, and that is, surprise, Kaizer Chiefs. If you look at the league table, it shouldn't be a surprise. But if you look at their current form, but they've drew with TS Galaxy most recently, not doing too well in Africa as well, not too many points on the board. But he says, while it is still mathematically possible, you got to watch out for Chiefs. To that you say, what, Jay? Are they still a threat?
That's a technicality, right? Because how, like he said, mathematically, Kaizer Chiefs are still in the hunt for the league title. And I'm pretty certain if we apply that context, it might even go down to cheaper still being in with a mathematical shout.
Yeah.
Because
down to 16th.
You win all of your games, right? You're going to go beyond the number that Orlando Pirates have currently. And if Pirates lose all their games, then Chippa can surpass Pirates at the top, or whoever would be sitting at the top at that time. So technically, yes, Kaizer Chiefs and everybody else in the PSL is still in with a chance to win the league. But in reality, Chuck, I don't think they can. I don't think they can. And if I just look at the form that they find themselves in currently, and this is not to take away from what Kaizer Chiefs have done, like in the season thus far. And even if you look at the year that Kaizer Chiefs have had, it's been a good year. They finally broke their almost decade drought by winning the Nedbank last season, but that was this year, and they end the year like high up on the PSL table, within touching distance of the leader Orlando Pirates. And you think to yourself, had a couple results gone their way, they probably be at the actual very summit of the league, right? So in isolation, when you compare to what they've done in recent times, they've had a good campaign, a start to the league season. But do I think that it's going to continue to a point whereby within come April, come May, they name is still in the hat to win the Betway Premiership? I don't think so, Chuck. And because when you look at a game as they had against TS Galaxy, following the game against Chipa, so 2-0 draws in a row. I love my numbers. And if you look at those numbers, this is what happened against Chipa. 17 shots, and they didn't score a goal, which was the record for Kaizer Chiefs, the most number of shots since it's been tracked, right? Most number of shots taken without scoring a goal. Do you know when they then broke that record? Their very next game against TS Galaxy, 24 shots. And given the TS Galaxy keeper, especially in the first half, was in like world-class form to keep them out. And also Kaizer Chiefs should have won that game because they had a legitimate goal that was ruled out. And that should have been a win, but it wasn't. It wasn't ruled a goal, and they continue to play and they continue to take the shots, and it's not very good shots that they take, because when you do look then at the expected goals for 24 shots, it's not very high. It doesn't even reach like 2, right? But I look at that, Chuck, and it's a whole lot of huffing and puffing, and there is no result. I look as well at the fact that you contrast Kaizer Chiefs to an Orlando Pirates, where it is also a continuously changing cast of players in the starting lineup, but it feels different to Orlando Pirates, where it doesn't matter who's playing for Pirates. It's plug and play. They don't go backwards. You don't really know what is the preferred first 11 at Pirates, and it's not because the coach is confused. It's because everybody steps up and is good enough to command a place in the starting 11. At Kaizer Chiefs, we don't know that because it's a merry-go-round, and you never quite get a sense that this is the best team, So that also is something that is that messes with their momentum. So I look at that team, Chuck, and I believe this season they're going to finish in the top 8. I believe they're going to be they're going to be there third or fourth, commanding one of those places for Confed. Again, I don't think they get into the top 2, and as a result, I don't think they are genuine contenders for the PSL title.
I think there has been an upturn in terms of their form, or in terms of how they play, or what you expect from Chiefs, right? Especially after they won the Nedbank Cup. Also, how they started the season. You don't think to yourself, okay, there's stuff to be had, there's games to be won by Kaizer Chiefs. But when you think about, also look, the defense has been good. Haven't let in so many goals. So if you think about the fact that about Korang against Chipa or TS haven't conceded either. So I think that's decent, right? When you look at what's happening at the back. But what's happening in the front and creative wise, for me, I think that's the issue. Guti, if Mtu doesn't bring the goods, then no one does. If Uvilaga is not bringing the goods, then no one does. And I think that's their issue. Last season there was issues about Dupre, about Oranga, who are not finding the back of the net. Different strikers now. Igo Daro, there is Flavio. Who else is leading the line for Chiefs?
The prayer comes and goes in the number 9 spot, and you also Mayos played as a striker in his first few games.
There's Dubai as well, who's an option.
Who was a right wing.
So when you think about that, they're not strikers who find the back of the net regularly, and so that's the midfield must step up, and they haven't done so far. So I look at Chiefs and I think to myself, they play well. Like 16 shots suggests that you're creating something, and I think they had similar stats last season in terms of creating chances, shooting, but not finding the back of the net. And I think that has plagued them even this season in terms of when you look at their goals in Africa, local, whether they're playing home or away, they've got that particular issue. Which, mind you, I think is a South African issue. Sundowns are scoring more than a goal a game, but it's not astronomical numbers. Pirates are not faring much better either. But what they are doing is that they're converting those shots into goals, and they're winning those particular games. And that's the difference between those 3 sides. So I think, Jay, for me, it's a bridge too far, because I think their plate is full. If they didn't have Africa to contend with, I think they can put all their efforts into the league. But the fact that they're looking to do something decent in Africa, because Sabat Khalil, you can't then say, you know what, we're not interested anymore, or we're not taking it seriously anymore. You have to take it seriously. You have to play, you have to go and put in your best players to give you a display. So for me, I think there's just too much on their plates. There's too much to figure out. And I think the guys who are at the helm, be it as it may be, Guti, they're playing or coaching well without Unabi. I think the lack of experience is telling at this point in time, because you must find something and stick to it and have it work out. Because with Paris, like we say, Guti, they've got players that they switch, interchange in and out. They've got confidence there. They've won cups there. So they're players who are ready to go. They're ready to go and play for Chiefs. Whereas I still think at this point in time, it's still a burden to play for Chiefs. It's still just less seeing the Chiefs still in terms of coming in there and putting together a performance. So I think, Jay, for me, it's a bridge too far. It's one of those statements that you think to yourself, well, you didn't have to make it. You were just being diplomatic and sounding nice, but I don't count Chiefs Guamanja. Unless they surprise us. But Guamanja, I don't count them.
And it makes no sense, Chuck. And I'll tell you why. Because when you look at the players the Chiefs brought in this season, they've got a plethora of good players. And you know my litmus test, right, in terms of where is the problem? Is it players or is it coach? If you get the one, it will tell you about the other. And they've got players. Yeah. And because when I look at Kaizer Chiefs, right, Miguel Abadlisa move. And part of the reason why Miguel Abadlisa move is because prior to him coming to South Africa, Miguel was not a centre back. Yes, he played he moonlighted at centre back because he's got a defensive prowess in his game, but he's a DM, right? And he so often performs actions at the back where you can't do that because you're the last line. And there isn't a defense to screen you behind you. Guys are through on goal. So that's one. I think there in that right centre back position, Kunika actually might be the guy they just need to settle on. You know, they've now settled on the keeper, which is good, and they're keeping clean sheets. So even with Miguel's blunders, they are not letting all the many goals in. In fact, I think they've got more clean sheets this season than they had all of last season. And then you go into the middle, like Maboya now is playing in the 11, right? And he's playing as a 6. And by the way, I just want to give a shout out, Wang Maboya is one of the most versatile players the PSL has ever seen, because when he was at Sundowns, that man played as a right back. That man played as a false 9. That man played as a 10. He played as an 8. And here he played on the wings. And here he is now playing as a 6. There's absolutely nothing he cannot do on the field of play. And he's honestly one of my favorite players of the last few seasons, because every time he's on the field, he gives you so much, and he's adept at the positions that he's playing in. But you have Omaboe now playing as a 6, and who has he come in for? For Ox, Chuck. And you have also Umako at left back, and he's come in for Cross. And the reason I point those two out is because I look at Kaizer Chiefs, and you see these switches, and yes, this happens from match to match because it's horses for courses, right? I don't feel that's what's happening at Kaizer Chiefs. I feel, Chuck, they're taking a player out and putting in another one in, and it's wildly different profiles. And I'm sitting there watching, thinking, what do you actually want to do? Because Marco, for example, he overlaps, right? He gives you that width. Whereas Cross has been the one who's been playing in that left centre-back position, and he's more set back, and he helps in terms of their rest defense. So when you switch one for the other, I'm asking the question, is this an intent now that you want to be more attacking? Because this does not align with what you've been doing this entire time. Again, when you take Ox out, who his whole game is just defense, we know he's not very good with the ball at his feet, and you have Omaboe now there. Maboe is not a destroyer as such, right? And he's a metronome and he's a deep lying playmaker. Is that what we're going with now? And then you're pairing him with Matlo, and yeah, Matlo gives his all in terms of those defensive actions, and the numbers would say that. But I don't quite see George Matlo as a guy who is going to be performing defensive duties in midfield, you know. But they've got all these players, but they can't figure out really what is the perfect combination, which 11 and options on the bench have the best chemistry. And that brings me back to then the coaching. That I don't know if this double coach, guys who were initially assistants, is going to work, you know. So I still think they need a coach because they've got the players. And the last thing I'll say about the players, Chuck, is watching Uvelibai, what a beautiful player. The way he's so beautifully balanced when he's running with the ball, I think is going to be a superstar. But again, you need to nurture it. All right, Chuck, we're talking about players who might become superstars, right? And a player has he been is he a has been now, which is maybe
has been a
the
superstar.
Things that are floating around, is a superstar, Mo Salah, right? And we were speaking about Mo Salah last year when he was coming out talking about this is his last season, performing out of his mind. This is his last season. He doesn't have a contract. And I was critical of that. We were critical of that. We were like trying to decipher what's up with Mo Salah. Why is he coming out talking like this, right? And every opportunity he got, he spoke about his contract situation. Then he signed the contract. This season, Liverpool, as we've seen, have had a torrid time since that great start to the season. And now Mo Salah has been dropped, and Mo Salah now has come out and has spoken to the media. Uguti has been thrown under the bus. Somebody in the team, doesn't name who, but in the sentence prior to that, he was talking about the coach who doesn't probably like him. And then there's been reaction, right, from Liverpool legend.
No.
There's been a reaction from Carragher and others, right, in terms of criticizing, coming down heavily on what Mo Salah is doing.
Yeah.
Chuck, in terms of Mo Salah coming out and saying that he's being thrown under the bus and he doesn't understand why he's now no longer playing, and the reaction from those Liverpool legends and others in the football sphere that Mo Salah is being selfish and is taking it too far. Where do you stand on that?
I think, in the conversation that we had about Mo Salah, you were saying it's a risk to give someone like that a contract who was 32 at the time, right? And what if he doesn't perform like he does the following season? And I said to you, Guti, well, we've seen the stars, especially if you look at Mo Salah, take care of their bodies and they've added longevity to their careers. And so I thought to myself, Guti, if Mo Salah's performing like this and he's almost single-handedly dragging them to the league title, will you not look like this next season? And so next season has come and you're like, what's going on with Mo Salah?
Put up my hand because I just want to ask you the question. I need you to confirm. Are you saying I was right? So I hear you saying a whole lot of stuff, but are you saying I was right?
I'll only answer if they'll edit this out. You're right. You were actually right in terms of the output because it's a drought now. Like they've started well, but now you look at Mo Salah, you look to Mo Salah, he's not giving them that particular output. And people are saying, is it not because Aksana Trent to give you that quick ball, that acres of space that you tend to run into and then you do your thing. Now you're playing a more tighter game and you're more of a facilitator, it looks like, trying to help others to score. And I look at that and I'm like, Mo Salah, I see you're complaining and maybe promises were made, like you keep saying, you were promised stuff, but based on your performances, I can't defend Mo Salah in terms of he shouldn't be on the bench. Last season I could say, give the man the contract because he's giving you goals, he's leading you towards the league title, and if it wasn't for PSG, chances they'd go to the Champions League final as well because they looked that good, right? Because you look at other, if you looked at other options, Abo Cody Gakpo, Abo Luis Diaz, you couldn't necessarily rely on them to give you goals. But Mo Salah, you could bank on Mo Salah. But this season, Jay, Mo Salah Sebenzi, and I'm trying to expand this, right? Still focusing on Mo Salah. Florian Wirtz, not quite happened. You look at someone like Alexander Isak, even though they persist on playing him. If someone should be taking interviews, it's Hugo Ekitike. I come on and I score, and I'm on the bench. He should be doing interviews. But I think, Jay, a lot has gone wrong in that team, right? And you can't necessarily put it on Mo Salah. But if we look at Mo Salah himself and his performances, nah, man, it's not good enough. So for me, to be honest, now it sounds like whining and complaining because before he had numbers to back it up. And I was standing next to him and go, let the man talk because the football is talking as well. But now the football is not sounding as loud. It's not talking as prolific as it was last season. And now it's just him saying stuff which I was made promises. I was told it's going to happen this way and that way. And look, everyone else has done their bit. Mo Salah hasn't quite. If you look at the contract situation or the guy being the talisman for Liverpool or being the legend. So for me, Jay, I think it sounds a bit more. It sounds selfish now because it's the second time he moves, and this time the numbers aren't there to back him up. The goals aren't there to back him up. The league position is not there to back him up because, like we say, winning solves everything. And so when you're not winning, we're like, how? Mo Salah, and so he's on the bench, and for me, there's no sympathy this time.
Yeah, Chuck, I think two things can be true at the same time, right? One of those truths is that Mo Salah is being selfish and self-centered. The second of those truths, I think that particularly from the Liverpool legends and people of a particular hue, they've taken it too far. So in terms of the first thing with Mo Salah, right? Throughout his time at Liverpool, we've seen Mo Salah when he's being subbed, he throws his toys out of the cart. Famously, in I want to say it was Klopp's last season, but one of the more recent seasons, where remember on the touchline where he was having words with Klopp, where he had to be separated from Klopp by Nunes, who was coming on at the same time, and I was thinking to myself, you don't ever see that from other players, and I'm seeing that from Mo Salah, and it's not completely out of left field. Like this is not behavior I expect from Mo Salah. And then you consider the fact that Sadio Mane has previously had issues with Mo Salah, and and the issues were on the field in terms of you play for yourself. When you've got an opportunity to pass to play me in, whereas that is the correct play in that moment, you don't do it. And Mo Salah can retort and say that that's part of the reason why he's got the numbers. And the thing is, Chuck, the guys who do deliver those astronomical goals, right, and the guys who become absolute superstars, you need to have a tinge of selfishness. Like we were talking about the Mbappe goal in the most recent game where he goes past two players, where Vini's right there, you can play him in, but he doesn't, and he scores a worldie, you know. And you need to have some of that in you, and it's trying to find the balance, I suppose. But famously, as I'm saying, like Sadio Mane did feel that there's a line where Salah continues to went beyond it, where he's not thinking about the team, he's thinking about himself. And this was once again showcased when he was talking about his contract, because we never ever hear from Mo Salah. This season, Liverpool have been struggling, and we've continuously heard from Van Dijk. And Salah is one of the leaders, or supposedly should be. He's one of the experienced players in the dressing room. We heard nothing from him. The moment he's dropped, that's when we hear from him. You got to take a step back and say,
yeah, true.
Man, you're not thinking about team. You are consistently thinking about yourself, right? So I do think he's in the wrong for coming out and speaking the way that he has, because, yeah, he centered everything on himself when he was playing and not playing well, and the team was not playing well. He wasn't coming out talking about the team and himself, but now he is, you know, and that does leave like a bad taste in your mouth. So he's rightly being criticized for that. But I do think that people have taken it too far, because, and if I go to Jamie Carragher's words, he speaks about the fact that you were nothing before you came here. I'm like, hold on.
A Chelsea flop, or something, someone who failed at Chelsea.
That's how you're going to start describing him. Like, the near decade of what he's given to Liverpool, where he's one of the absolute greatest players to ever play for that team. And you want to go back, because for me, Chuck, that reeks of know your place, boy.
Yeah.
That's what, like, I'm taking from that, because even I think McAteer, when he's talking about like Mo Salah has never carried Liverpool, and he puts him up against Steven Gerrard. Stevie G did carry Liverpool, and yes, Stevie G did do that. You know,
to the tune of what, a Champions League title, FA Cup, and that's it.
But why you gotta even go there? Why do you have to even go there? You know, and it's the fact that, Chuck, that Mo Salah is a brown skinned football player from Africa. And Carragher has the audacity to even bring up Mo Salah's failures at AFCON, whereas he's the same person who said AFCON is not even a major tournament, but now it counts because you just want to completely annihilate the player. So I do think Mo Salah was in the wrong, and he's rightly being criticized, as we are doing right now. But I do think some of the noise that has come out from particular corners is taking it too far.
I mean, with Chelsea's signing policy, lots of players failed at Chelsea. Kevin De Bruyne failed at Chelsea, right? But went to Wolfsburg, set the scene ablaze, came back and was a star. Mo Salah failed at Chelsea, went to Fiorentina, went to Roma, and was a star. And rightfully came back to the Prem because he was a wanted commodity and hit the ground running, mind you. So the idea that he was a failed player at Chelsea, I think that's unnecessary. That's derogatory, because the great Mo Salah, the Egyptian, the guy who's won you all these accolades, that's how you remember him. And look, man, I think, yeah, it was fine when it was Glory Gerrard, right? Because he was the shining light in a underperforming Liverpool team. You stick Torres next to him, they wouldn't win anything. But Gerrard run his lungs out, scored worldies, etc., etc. But Mo Salah actually got you to the promised land. He got you over the line more times than not. And he was there fighting tooth and nail against arguably the hardest opposition that you could ever have, Man City and Pep. And Salah was there along with Klopp, and he was the star, right? As much as there was a Firmino and there was a Sadio Mane, on days you would say that Sadio Mane was better. But generally, when you look at their body of work, Salah was the star. And that's how you look at him now. The guy was the flop.
We made you.
Yeah, we made you, right?
That's what you hear, we made you.
So it doesn't quite make sense. I know he doesn't do himself any favors with what he's saying in the media right now, but I agree with you in terms of the media coverage and what people are saying about Mo Salah. It's unwarranted. Doesn't quite make sense, because he's talking about his numbers and the promises that were made to him, and then you're going to say, hold on, let's get your whole entire body of work. Let's confine it to this season. What have you done in this season? If you failed this season, let's talk about this season. I thought you were nothing. That doesn't quite make sense.
That's that famous pitch side clip where Richards speaking about Pogba, and he points out that Harry Kane he wasn't coming to training. He was trying to force his way out of Spurs to go to Man City, and then was not coming to training. And then he points out that Pogba has never done anything of that kind, and Graham Souness is like, yeah, rubbish is in my way. It's like, let's move on.
Let's talk
from
about
this.
Chelsea
Let's talk
Liverpool.
It's like,
Classic
what?
Graham Souness.
Like, and classic that crowd of people, Chuck. That's and which is exactly what's happening here. It does not make right what Mo Salah is doing, but come on, let's consider what is happening here.
The guy that everyone says every time is AFCON, oh, we're going to lose Mo Salah, we're going to lose Sadio Mane. Now is the guy who failed.
Suddenly.
Interesting.
That just goes on to tell you that you're only as useful as they deem you to be. Because at the point where they feel that you no longer are, who the heck are you? We are Two Up Front, and you can continue watching and following along to the content that we put out. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've not yet done so. Press the like button. Do leave your comments in the comment section. We'll be sure to respond. We love hearing from you guys. And you can also continue to engage with us across all social media platforms. It is at Two Up Front Pod. You can find me at J_Mzulu. You can find Chuck at Chuck2Up. From myself, Jay, I'm outie.
I mean, I saw Husky Hakim Ziyech join Iwudat and play with Lodge, and play with Field at Chelsea, came to Africa. I was going to say Mo must come to Pirates, but he's going to sit on the bench. I'm going to say rotator, so